This landmass, now called Zealandia, will drift in isolation through the South Pacific. As it does so, the tectonic plate beneath it is cooling and condensing. By 35 million years ago, Zealandia has sunk beneath the ocean, leaving only a few scattered islands remaining. The missing continent remains submerged for 10 million years until its weak crust is suddenly caught in between the Pacific and Australian plates. Through a process known as subduction, the central region of Zealandia was pushed out of the sea, forming a series of large islands for any animals able to reach them. 25 million years later, the ecosystem of the land we now call New Zealand is one different from any other in the world. When the dinosaurs were wiped out 65 million years ago, the surviving birds and mammals began competing for the dominant ecological niches the reptiles once held. In most parts of the world, the mammals won, and new species evolved to take over the world, but most land mammals in Zealandia were wiped out in the flooding. When New Zealand rose from the sea, numerous birds began finding their way to the large islands, and facing no competition, they evolved to fill the empty niches. This program will look at some of the bird life that evolved in this isolated Eden, their ways of life, and how the arrival of humans affected their ecosystem. Birds have been finding their way to these islands throughout the 25 million years New Zealand has existed. Some, such as the New Zealand pigeon, resemble equivalents found in Australia, suggesting their ancestors arrived recently. Other birds, such as the saddleback, have not been tied to any other specific bird groups found outside of New Zealand. They must have been here for much longer. A bird family that is common in Australia and eventually stumbled across this birdland is the parrot. The New Zealand kaka is an ordinary parrot that lives in the treetops of forests and feeds upon seeds and tree sap, but its close relative is a parrot different from any other in the world. The kea lives in the rocky southern Alps, and it holds the title of being the only alpine parrot in the world. In order to survive in the cold climate, this bird evolved a thick coat of feathers for insulation and a diverse omnivorous diet. The kea evolved a more diverse diet due to the scarce amount of food in the mountains. The fact that the kea lives in the southern Alps shows how many niches the arriving birds were able to take, and seeing how the only land mammals to get here were bats, some birds even evolved behavior similar to mammal counterparts on the mainland. An example of this is the kokako, a close relative of the saddleback. It feeds on fruits and leaves in the forest and spends its days flying short distances from tree to tree. It can be seen as New Zealand's equivalent of a squirrel. Due to its lifestyle involving the bird traveling to numerous trees, it retained its ability to fly, even if for only short distances. Other birds, on the other hand, found a non-flying lifestyle to be more suitable. This is the kakapo, the only flightless parrot species on Earth. The kakapo is a herbivore, feeding on bark, leaves, and flowers, but it must climb up the trunks of trees to reach most of these. As well as that, it weighs more than other parrots, making it slightly clumsy. It seems odd how a parrot that feeds in trees would give up flight and increase its weight, but the kakapo has its reasons. 2 million years ago, the world entered an ice age, and temperatures dropped rapidly. To cope with this, the kakapo evolved a thick layer of fat beneath the skin to help insulate its body as well as store energy when needed. As for giving up flight, the ancestral parrots faced no threats from mammals on the ground, and there was an unoccupied niche for them to take. Today, this strange bird is a creature similar to small plant-eating mammals such as the rabbit. The kakapo is one of many flightless birds that evolved in New Zealand. Another well-known example, one that is in fact the national bird of these large islands, is the kiwi. The kiwi is a nocturnal bird that feeds on insects and other critters it finds in the leaf litter. It is the New Zealand counterpart of the badger. In order to find its food underground, it evolved an elongated snout with its nostrils at the very end to enhance its smell, something no other bird has. Its beak can also be used as a probing device to detect vibrations within the ground. Once the bird finds something, it knows where its next meal is. The array of creatures in the leaf litter gave the kiwi a good reason to live on the ground. Today, its small wings that would have allowed it to fly are not even visible, now just insignificant stumps hidden beneath its feathers. It was not only the niches of small mammals the birds in New Zealand took, much larger ones browsed on the low-lying branches in the forest. Replacing mammals like cattle and horses were large herbivorous geese, rails, and one of the most well-known birds of New Zealand, the moa. There were 9 species of moa, all of which were long-necked wingless browsers. The multiple species could be found throughout the biomes of the islands and came in varying sizes. Some stood only a meter tall, while others could have easily dwarfed an ostrich. The bigger moa species were some of the largest birds to ever exist. They evolved to be so large due to no ground predators threatening them, but they and all the other birds of New Zealand were still hunted. The kia and kakapo have green feathers for camouflage, and the kiwi is nocturnal. These are ways that animals hide from predators. The equivalents of lions, wolves, and bears in New Zealand were large birds of prey. The biggest of these, the Haas eagle, had a wingspan of over 10 feet and a ferocious appetite for moa. It would launch off a tree branch and use its sharp claws to rip into a moa's back, quickly killing it. This bird represents the ability of New Zealand's bird life to take over the land it found and evolve into unique opportunists, facing few threats. This suddenly changed in 1250 AD. It was at this time that one of the numerous species that found New Zealand arrived. It was Polynesian settlers from the tropics. With them, they brought dogs and rats, just as their ancestors had done with the other islands they colonized, such as Hawaii and Easter Island. When they first interacted with the bird life here, the Polynesians found that the animals had no fear of them. The birds never before saw humans, so why be afraid of them? Upon learning this, the settlers began to extensively hunt birds such as the moa for food, and at a rate its reproduction couldn't catch up with. By the 1500s, all of New Zealand's large birds went extinct, with the rats and dogs desecrating smaller species. Without threats previously, many birds laid their eggs on the ground, which was an easier option than up in a tree. When the rats arrived, the eggs were not too hard to snatch. Then, in 1642, European sailors discovered the islands. Their wave of influence brought even more invasive species. Some of these were cats, livestock, and stoats. The stoat is today a major pest in New Zealand, as it frequently attacks and kills young kiwis. These ground-dwelling birds evolved few effective defense techniques, as they never faced ground predators before. Usually, the stoats easily win. Even in birdland, the mammals found their way to the islands and defeated the birds. Today, humans are the most powerful species on the globe, as they have warped entire ecosystems to their liking. One of the treasures of every nation is its wildlife, and the protection of it is seen as necessary. In New Zealand, many native animals are now looked at as international symbols of the islands, and in order to prevent more damage, the people of the world need to work together.